right, welcome everybody to the stream, and of course the day where we've got a big rebound. So let's have a talk about the close here, because fairly significant, decent closure, and yeah, it looks a lot more bullish than it did in the last 24 hours in terms of now we're putting pressure back on this resistance. We're putting pressure back on the level that where the bulls are trying to take control. And obviously we've now got the FOMC minutes out of the way in terms of the statements. So let's talk about what's happened today. Quite a lot of things. Let's quickly go through the Nasdaq to start off with here. So it did short for a period of time and it filled partially. So let's just have a quick look at how that ended up playing out. So here's the full gap, and here's where the market ended up stopping. It didn't quite go down as much as some people would think. And then it ended up creating a little double bottom on the day, and it's gone bullish into the resistance. So it looks like we'll probably close around this resistance. It leads to a very easy day trade in the next session should we close here and we see that little bit of follow through to the next bull side. I mean, obviously this is looking bullish. Now we'll talk about both ends. So we'll talk about the bullish and the bearish cases here for the market. I hope everyone's going quite well, and I hope everybody is having a good session so far. Now, not every stock is up. If you notice, a lot of the hyper growth stocks are actually the ones that are getting hit today. So the previous session, we saw hyper growth come along with the general crowd. In today's session, if you scroll through here and you look at most of these reds, they're all in the hyper growth area. So that's going to be some pretty big stuff. Now we've got Nvidia coming out with the earnings announcement after the market. So that's going to be another big one. Maybe change sentiment on the market as well, depending on how it hits. Now I want to just let everyone know, if you watched the video yesterday, we need to be realistic about this. In 2018, that was the last time that we actually saw Nvidia miss earnings. It was a long time ago. So Nvidia has been quite a while since it's missed earnings. In fact, I think it hits 90% plus over the time. But if it does miss, I think that's probably going to be a bit of a negative catalyst here. Let's just quickly go through these market indices first. Then we'll talk about Nvidia, though, because it is probably the biggest news of the day. It's even the FOMC was obviously a complete non-event. They just reiterated the same thing. I'll have a look at the minutes later, but it seems to be pretty non-eventful from my brief skim. Here we have the resistance. Here we have the support. Obviously a double bottom on the session. We ended up gapping lower, opening up, creating the double bottom, and then rallying through that. So now we have resistance, and we're closing at that point. Now on a daily of this particular candle, it just kind of looks like a gap below and then went bullish, which is not a bad sign. On the US 100, it looks like a nice, very nice follow through kind of candle. So it's interesting how the futures will look very different to the real market. And that's something that I guess some people take into consideration. So if you manage to get this pickup today, if you manage to get that double bottom trade, congrats to you. And did anyone get that one? Anyone get the double bottom? Let us know in the community. Certainly a significant little base formation here with the follow through that's happened. So at the resistance, it's hard to tell whether that's actually going to hold up. Let's look at the US 500, as that often tells us the better tail here. That also had same setup, end up coming down to this level. I thought it would go further. I thought it would try to actually fill, but obviously the minutes changed the game in terms of the way that the market was rotating. You could kind of see the market was thinking about going lower and then just chose not to do it. I mean, that's what we were hoping for. The gap fell and it went, nah, it's more of the same. We're pretty confident. So this particular market's actually making a new high coming into the close, which is significant. So if we look at that, there's the daily of the SPX and it's making a new high. It's hard pressed to be bearish. I mean, the price action is telling you you've got to be bullish from this perspective. I mean, the bears know where they've got back control of the market. It's obviously in these levels. But in terms of what's happening here, especially coming into this close, you've got to think that's a bullish move. What does the chat think, though? Do you think this is bullish or bearish? Let us know in the chat. Put it in now. Bullish, bearish, what are you right now in the markets? Not talking about next week. I'm talking about the next 2 sessions. People saying volume is declining though. Volume often declines on bullish movements. So yes, it does. So here's the volume coming in. Volume declines on the bullish movement. Then it increases on the red, which is the market going back down again. And then it gets smaller. And that's pretty normal. You generally see the volume declining after that area. You never see, I don't know why that's actually an argument so much. People often go into that. Look at this whole run. Is that volume less than over here? It is. Now, you don't really want it this low. I mean, by the end of the day, coming into the close, should see the volume come back up to be equal with this one. We'll find out how it ends up playing out. All right, here we go. We've got some chats here. It says, don't fight the Fed, bearish, then bullish. Okay, for Durgesh. Then we've got bear, trap, sideways. Ranger A said, Friday should see red only because fears of the end of the Olympics and what Russia may do. It's a good point there, Ranger. I like that. Bear, this looks so bad. Fair enough. Bull after earnings. Bullish and unless bad Russian news comes out. Bull trap, bull. Bear, this is a 50% bet, I think, from you guys, what you're saying here. We've got a $5 donation coming in from Tanner. Thank you very much, Tanner. It says HSY has bearish RSI divergence and it uses the weekly 30 MA. Tom, just look at where the base support is and where the weekly 30 is. Watch this one. Okay. Don't usually use the weekly 30. But we'll have a look at HSY in a second. So yeah, SP 500 closing bullish. Look, it is what it is. If you think about it, it's kind of like a trough, a peak, a higher trough, and a higher peak. So in that action, it looks bullish. If we look at it in the perspective of a weekly, so let's have a look at the weekly here. Again, it has come back and retested some form of low. Here's my issue, though. I mean, if I was looking at this and I was bearish, even with this lightning bolt, because of these 2 big rejection candles, I would find it hard pressed to still believe in not being a bear. Like, the bear looks good here. And I think that the points about the Olympics finishing, Russia suddenly being able to do stuff, that was always an argument we were talking about here. Look, all this stuff kind of makes sense. The price action saying bullish, though, maybe it comes down to a bit of Nvidia. Maybe Nvidia actually is a catalyst here that's more than we think. So we'll keep going through the market in a second. By the way, gold bull back up to 1870. Congrats to people that are in that one, getting that trade back on. We'll take a look at that a little bit later after the market closes. So let's do this. The Hershey company. I haven't had those chocolates in a very long time. And it says here, bearish RSI divergence. Okay, so you're usually always going to see RSI up here. Oh, they've updated the RSI indicator. So you're almost always going to see bearish. There's the little RSI divergence that you're looking at. And then you say it uses the weekly 30 MA. Okay. Just look at where your base support is and what the weekly 30 is. Watch this one. So weekly 30 would be in between here. So it'd be like here, I'd say, based on your kind of analysis. And there's the base. So you're talking about 200 to going down to about 180, I guess there, Tanner. Thank you very much for the donation. That's what I guess Tanner's looking at. In general, look, RSI is always going to usually show divergence most of the time. I mean, you may say, oh, it probably doesn't. But look, it even shows it here. It's showing divergence the whole way through. Very hard to predict based on divergence alone. You've really got to use price action, principles as well. So that in this case, it would be, if you're looking for it to weaken, yes, I think if it gets underneath this resistance, this support, then it's putting in a little bit of a sequence short, and then you can start to get it to move through. Let's go to the weekly just quickly again. Based on the previous action, it might even try to stop itself right here, which is the 190, because that's where the 20 moving average is, and it's hit that a few times. Thanks very much for the donation, though. And yeah, I totally see this support. If it's the hits there, could be good trade off there. So good luck. Thank you. Zach Lane says, hi, Tom. Thank you again for delivering such invaluable TA and insights to the markets. Have a great day. No worries. That's very good. And Durgesh, $2. Nvidia TA, Tom, please took some money out of, took some out of the money puts. Okay, so you're betting against it. Fair enough. All right, let's have a look at Nvidia. So Nvidia is coming in flat as attack, really. I mean, I just look at it from, this is probably one of the big tellers of the market. When you think about it, you go to a weekly, what did Nvidia tell you? So Nvidia said bearish, okay? No follow through. This is why we always say you need to follow through. No follow through, massive trap candle if that's what's going to be happening. Now we've got earnings coming up, as we know. Let's have a look at the overall picture here. So most people that are drawing this are kind of, everyone seems to know this trend line's here. So it's in that weakness that's coming through. Some people are drawing a bottom, wherever they're drawing a bottom from, trying to say, okay, look, there's the bottom of the channel, whatever. Doesn't really matter. Get rid of that. We do have a resistance that's sitting right at the 270. And this is all down to earnings. It's obviously a guess, okay? You're guessing at this point, and you're saying, look, what do we know? We know how AMD's done. We know how you look at other chip manufacturers, and you basically have to look at them and see how they've gone. AMD's the closest to Nvidia in terms of how they do. If it has a good result, probably goes to $300. The reason why is that's kind of like that next psychological resistance. And if it has a bad result, well, obviously, I think it'll drag the market as well in terms of sentiment. That's just the way I look at it. So we're at resistance. We've got the downward trend line. And in the previous video, what I discussed whether it's expensive fundamentally. So seasonality-wise, if you go back to all midterm years, so this is 2018, 2014, 2010, it usually does have a decent Feb, which is probably because its earnings is not too bad. So it usually beats earnings, as we said, 90% of the time. But then historically, it's had a pretty crappy year up until the next big earnings, which is its August, September. And I'll tell you this, Nvidia has amazing August, September runs. They're very statistically good. So if you end up seeing good TA on Nvidia around that period of time coming into it, not too bad, not too bad. Doesn't matter which year you look at. Every year is really, really good for Nvidia. So then you want to go through, obviously, your balance sheets and stuff. We won't go through the full thing today. What I was trying to show everyone the other day in the video was just that if you think about any of the standard metrics, and let's just say that, yes, okay, no one really cares about some of these fundamentals, but it's starting to be questioned, yeah? I mean, that's what we've seen with hypergrowth stocks. They've come back down to earth, and they've come back down because people are starting to question fundamentals. This stock is growing at an incredible rate. I mean, think about why it went down over here. It was going up and the EPS was going down. So it was clearly growing in other sectors of the business. This doesn't tell the full story. PE ratio is only very basic. The actual value was turning around. Now we're at this point over here and we're trading at, let's say you would consider more of a fairish ratio. But I think the real teller is maybe in the PS ratio. And this is where things have gotten pretty extreme since the pandemic. You've got that huge ramp in sales, but you've also got a huge ramp in overall valuation. So if they don't hit, they're one of those high ratioed stocks, kind of like a hyper stock in some ways in their growth. And they've grown, I mean, they're best performing stock in most people's portfolio over 2021 at one point there. So I think this presents a bit of an issue for them should they miss. And I think that's where you're going to see this big turnaround. So I'm not going to soothsay and say anything really about the fact they're going to miss, because 90% of the time they don't miss. My point of the video was really just to say there's going to usually be a decent amount of volatility around this announcement. And whether that's all the way back up here, there's a good chance that could happen. That's a 11% move. Or whether that's all the way down here, I think a lot of people have seen that this earnings season has presented some amazing Some amazing levels of volatility. Facebook, Amazon, anything really has been insane. Now, historically, the hyper stocks have actually outperformed what most of the market thinks, and that's because the market's lower than where it was. It's not going in flaming hot, so it doesn't have to do as big a number. Anyway, that's just some of my thoughts. And that's where I look, we're in the resistance. It's not really going to help you. I just guess I'm saying if you can practice risk management where possible on some of these positions, because you've got to expect the unexpected during this earnings season more than others. It's just higher than it was historically, so it's got to get it done. Vivid Moose, $5. Hey, Tom, and everyone's really positive. So let's see what the actual chat thinks about Nvidia. Do you think that Nvidia is going up or down? Up or down? Let us know. Vivid Moose, $5. Hey, Tom, thoughts on FSR chart? Having formed a bottom near last year's low, earnings are after today, okay, but not expecting a big reaction there. All right, fair enough. So you've done some analysis, figured out that you don't expect it. These markets continue to rally here. I do think it's a fairly significant close for the markets. I mean, that's lightning bolts across the board here. Maybe this will even, if that does well, it could be really, really big. All right, let's have a look at FSR. We've got 7 minutes till the closure. Nvidia, people are getting prepared. Are we prepared? My goodness. David 13 says up because it will mimic AMD earnings. Up, but I don't want it to. Probably because you want it cheaper. And Nvidia going down for sure, says Stock Trading Club. And I would say predominantly up. So probably about 70 to 80% up and a few downers. So it's mostly positive here. Having formed bottom down near last year's lows. Okay, so this is FSR, everybody. Seems like it's got an announcement after hours here. FSR on the weekly. Very nice support there. Fantastic. Nice movement. So it's gone up to a resistance, which is where it's going to close. So there's your previous support kind of resistance lines somewhere in this zone here. And it's trying to break out, I guess, ahead of earnings. So look, the good news is it's got a series of higher lows. It is doing the right thing. And if it closed this weekly like this, remember there's a rejection candle. So again, it's closing to the bullish side, which is significant. And then you've got to look at it from probably being fairly positive. Next stop, if it can do good earnings, would be somewhere in here. So you're talking about, where's that 200 sitting? Around $15.50, I think. So maybe, yeah, somewhere in here is the problem. $14.50 to $15.50. So I'd probably draw up a rectangle off the bottoms here and the top there. And that's where I'd be looking for the turnaround story. Thank you very much for the donation. Weekly, 20 is sitting there as well. Perfect. So it's kind of like a boom, problem area, potential. Yeah, I like that. Andreas, thank you for the $5. Johnson. Tom, if Nvidia beats earnings and goes back to 300, is the trend line from April 2020 now still relevant? So if we go back over to Nvidia just for a second here. Oh, goodness. I think it will probably, look, I mean, you have to get the stat. You think it beats. This is the trend line I assume you're talking about, or you're talking about the trend line down? April 2020. This one, I assume you're saying. This is still relevant regardless. If that's the trend line you're talking about, the weekly one that we had here that we were hoping it would come to. Yeah, it's still relevant because it hasn't ever tested it. It'll just continue to project out. Now, would you say the reason why you're probably saying is it's still relevant is because some people will start drawing this one? I would use both. I mean, I wouldn't discount this in the future. You would still use it. And if this ends up going to 300, just remember the one thing that's probably going to happen here is it's probably going to sugar rush into something like this. It'll probably reject a little bit. And if you want it, you're going to have to probably take it here, if that becomes what you want and you want to get into this stock. I would like to add to it. I didn't, because I wanted a cheaper price and I thought I'd get it on this one round. That's okay. There's other stuff for me. So Nvidia, look, I'm not FOMO on this stock because this stock is expensive. It is expensive. So let's look at some of the big changes. We've got some movement around on the US 2-year. Thank you very much, Andres. Bought a call on Nvidia. If it goes down, I'll blame Tom. Fair enough, Evan. Look, good luck. I hope it goes up, guys. I've got the Nvidia 3080. I've got the Nvidia Shield. I'm supporting you. I bought the 3080 I bought it the quarter before. But the point is that it's got a huge stat. It's 90% positive, but so many retail traders do love it. So I think having risk management is probably the key on these types of things. And it might be a fizzer, but in general, most people are now seeing why risk management in earnings is good. Do you all see why risk management in earnings can be good based on this earnings? I'm sure a few people got blown out. Look at these swings. My God, this daily is so important. 2 hours here, right back under. Oh, my goodness. So let's check that out in the SPX. How many minutes have we got? 2 minutes. What a confused market. It doesn't know what it wants to do. It's pulling itself back down to the highs of yesterday into the close. IWM, what's it doing? Bugger all. Stuck in its little range of doing nothingness. Yeah, that's a confused market, guys. What have we got turnarounds here? Oh, Apple's gone negative here for again. Amazon still plugging away, holding that zone. Microsoft now gone negative. Let's bring up the closures for the end of the day. Let's see what the nasty Wall Street guys are getting into. By the way, I've been setting up a few new watch lists. I'll maybe share that a little bit later on. Haven't finished with them, but I think it's interesting. And I'll bring up a concept that you might enjoy in videos, but obviously, it's worthwhile looking at macro news a little bit here just to figure out what's going on with markets. And I think there's certain things that a lot of people don't realize that actually become incredibly painful. And that's, of course, yield curve, yield inversion. And you don't see it very much, but when you see yield curve inversion, which we actually did have, it's pretty much I would say, if it's timed with some of the things that I think happen, it can be one of the number one leads. Now, it's probably about 6 months early, usually to 12 months early, but it will usually tell us that the market is absolutely buggered. Okay. And I mean buggered. So we'll talk about that in the future. But when that happens, bad times ahead. You've got to be really careful. You need to have a very big plan. So let's have a look at what's performed best for the session. So we'll bring that up so far. Here we go. Here's the image coming on. So GDX, few defensives, XLP, XLU, little jets, still doing okay. We've got energy, materials, so not really the growth stocks. Semiconductors and XLK flat for the session after having a good day so far. So that's us into the close. You can see the sell-off coming through a little bit here. Yeah, it's interesting one. Nvidia into Tesla. So what's happening with Tesla? Tesla, small rally here. Obviously, 945, 950 area is the real rally point for this stock. And I continue to watch it. I mean, if you're bullish, you're probably bullish into this zone. And if it gets through, you would be very happy with yourself because you can see the explosion that could come off a buy off that area. I've got alerts here. Why wouldn't you? It's a huge deal if it cracks this level, and you would think that it's going to be a very good day trade. So Tesla traders, look, not much going on. It's kind of hit your resistance, which is the daily 20 again today, and sitting there waiting to see whether the market pops. And if the market pops, I think, Tesla will probably go through this resistance as well. So Tesla traders, you look for the 945, 950. And if you're looking for the pickup, I mean, you're basically saying, okay, pull back. Let's see if we can get back to those levels. Really small time frames for this one. So the market closed, and it closed pretty much inconclusively. You can see here the way that it closed. NDX, where did it close? Didn't get the high. Very, very disappointing. And SPX marginally closed higher. And you can see here the 2 hour came back down. Oh, that's so annoying. So annoying. Because another day of nothingness. Good day trade in between if you're nimble and fast, but crap in terms of daily closures. Anyway, we'll talk about that more in the video. Let's scroll down. Has it come out yet? I've got it. Where's my Nvidia? We'll obviously keep this on the side. All right. Oh, who's scared? Is anyone scared? Put your hand up if you're scared or if you're feeling damn confident. 90% plus stat of being a beat. Will that hold up again into what was AMD basically said? Yes, we've still got chip shortages, but demand is great. Oh no. Okay. Isn't it 10-year over 2-year? You can use both combos. Gold was great again. Yeah. So we'll talk about some of those things now. We'll talk about some commodities while we wait for this big kahuna. INF says, did Jets so well? What does that mean, INF? It means you maybe traded Jets and you've done okay. Shop got spanked. Yeah, that was this morning, wasn't it? Let's have a look at Shopify. Oh, okay. Let's go here. Wow. Breakout past. Yeah, not good. Hey, not good. That's actually really bad for this stock. It could be coming right back down to earth because that's a close underneath a support it's been holding for a long time. Be careful on that one. I mean, maybe it rebounds, but unlikely. That's not the type of thing I buy. You get destroyed by that kind of thing. Okay. Big candle on Nvidia. Well, that's the day. That's the weekly. So let's look at the daily. Put it in perspective. Post is 267. That's a nasty candle right there. Okay, let's look at gold. So gold did really well. Let's go break it down to a 1 hour. If you actually took the trade we put in the video yesterday, you would have done okay. Let's just quickly load up a better gold. There we go. So here is the trigger, and I'll just talk you through it. Basically speaking, you would have had to, of course, leave your stop at the correct levels, but we'll see whether people did do that. So in my book, I think you triggered around here, and I did see it kind of going bearish through part of the session. So stop loss, obviously, after the last swing. Comes down, rallies up, 1870. Just descale your position, basically. That's what you're looking at. So you want to descale the position here, which is pretty important. I mean, if that's what you're technically looking at, but it was a nice little trade. Percentage-wise, you would have triggered around this level. So you're looking at about a 0.7, but it's not really about that for gold. Obviously, it's a trade, so it should be your risk versus reward. And it's a little bit over 1-to-1. It's about a 1 point. Actually, if we get the ratio, long position. Stop has to be there. Take profit 1870. So what's that? 1.69%, a 1.69 ratio. So not bad at all, and quite a nice trade, and hopefully it can continue on. So look, I think that's what you're really looking for in trades. You're looking for that breach, looking for that base formation. Obviously, that looks scary, but you've got to remember when you set your limit here and you buy and you place your stop and you place your take profit. Here's a question for the chat. do you need to stay around? Once you've entered here, you've made your take profit decision, you've made your stop loss decision. Do you A, continue to stay around, or B, leave the chart? Represent $2 monthly on gold. Is there a cup and handle? That must be an insane looking pattern. If you think it's it must be pretty big. Let's see what everybody says. Do you stay around or do you walk off and go and surf? Or whatever else you like doing. So you've entered the trade, you've placed your entry, you have your stop loss, and then you have your take profit. So you've just placed the trade. Snoozer says you will go and surf. That is correct. Some people are saying you stay around. Russell Waite says B, leave it and maybe check daily to hopefully pull the stop loss up until it's a big win or a little win. Fair enough. A lot of people say I stay. The answer is wrong. No, you walk away, guys. Don't waste your time. Absolutely. You've set the levels. You've entered. You've placed a stop loss. You've placed a take profit. What are you going to do if you stay around? You're going to potentially freak out if you see this and maybe take your order out because it hasn't hit your stop loss. But you think, oh no, I've lost. I can't handle it. I'm out. You have to walk away. If you don't let your trades move like this, you're going to become a slave of the charts. And then all of a sudden you're sitting there for 10 hours a day and you have red eyes. Do you really want 10 hours a day and red eyes? Probably not. So there's a case to obviously leave gold in and continue to hold it now because it's gone back up and tested this level. If you can leave some in and it ends up breaking through this 1870 high, this is a very logical scenario, that 1910. That's why we like it at the moment. That's why we've been following it and it's doing okay. Represent $2 monthly on gold, cup and handle. Let's just quickly do that. So monthly. I've never been one for this type of pattern. So basically it's like this and there's our handle. Would I trust that? The answer is probably no. I wouldn't trust that. That being said, regardless of whether you believe it's cup or handle or not, I'm still bullish if it gets through this 1870 zone. But a big cup and handle, you could say it's there. I don't particularly use cup and handle pattern very often. Okay, Sid says they have red eyes. I have red eyes. All right. Andreas probably brings up the big thing here. So you're going to regret and take it out if you stay. That's correct. SMUSA says DoorDash beat big. So let's have a look at the dash. Oh, that's a decent turnaround, 21%. This stock was coming in sick too, wasn't it? It's interesting. I've always thought that DoorDash has the potential of being the best in terms of these delivery services. I'm not sure if they're the best in the US or close to. They're certainly the best in Australia. Uber has gotten flogged. I haven't used Uber for any service in like 2 years. So yeah, Uber I haven't used in 2 years. Deliveroo is terrible. That's probably only in Australia. And Menulog is a disgrace. Do not use Menulog. They are a disgrace. Oh, yes, 19%. 113. So that's only really just taking away some of the negativity from the stock. Could it beat the... I think that this 116 is the real thing here. So basically, you've got really good support. You've got a market that's going to go test this level, most likely. Find some resistance. If it breaches through, could be a rally trade if you like that type of thing. But it's another story, a cautionary tale of buying stuff that's IPO'd in America. Up, down, all around, goes up well, comes down, goes up, comes down, ends up being a bad investment. Again, why we don't do it is pretty much this reason. That's correct, Durgesh, but it's known by the market, isn't it, that one? I find that most people are usually partially emotion. Plus, you're putting yourself through unnecessary. You're not really accomplishing anything, because if you can't leave that particular trade on for its stop loss and take profit and all those things, you don't really have a replicatable system that you can scale up heavily. I think that's one of the big problems there. Red eyes are okay, yeah. You've got to have faith. You've got to have faith in your positions there and when you place them. Tom, your take on Snap, please. Let's have a look at Snap. So obviously a big rebound here off the earnings, went all the way back up, and then now it's stagnating. I don't like this trade very much. I mean, if you got it correct for the earnings, well done. I could see it just sitting here for quite some time. So basically just sitting around doing nothing after that big, nice return. And part of the reason is because when you have a big gap like this, it has to consolidate for a little bit. I mean, it's already tried to price itself in. If anything, I think it probably dips a bit before it goes back up. So that's just my thoughts on Snap. I'm not a fan of these social media low moat kind of companies, though. Let's have a look at oil. People are asking about that. They're saying, Tom, what do you think? Well, I'm not going to change my opinion. I mean, I said at 92, it's expensive, and I think it's coming down. And then it went a few dollars higher. 4 hour 50 exponential moving average is being broken. Now, there was one little break here that created a little bottom. However, other than that creating the bottom, which remember it happened here and it created the bottom, we have generally seen the 50 hold up very easily on this rally. This is a break below. It is negative, and I don't like oil. It is too far away. And I repeat that, it is too far away from the 20 moving average. It's too far. This is the furthest I've seen it in possibly my trading career. 18.45%, other than when it's flash crashing or something like that. You know what I mean? So this is on the bull side, 18.45% away from the 20. That's too much, and it usually needs to mean revert. So I'm looking for it back down into this kind of 85 area. That's my personal opinion. And that was based just on that particular TA. And then, of course, this is not looking like a good candle either. Daily looks weak. 1 hour candle underneath almost this support. It's basically putting in a triple top kind of action. Not looking good. Negative more than positive on oil. And I remain that. The deer says Logan, Labu, etc. Yeah, so some of these biotechs are looking much better. If you think about them from the daily, I have small positions in these, taking my first entries. But yeah, I do like them. They are very, very low. So if you think about Labu, which is probably not the best thing to TA, you're better off TAing like an IBB or something, a non-leveraged fund. But there's a lot of volume going through at these lows, and this goes for any of the hyper stocks. They've all got huge volume at the lows, more so than the big FANG kind of stocks, more so than those. Then we have resistances. Could someone get me the timer on this Nvidia result? When's that actually happening? Obviously, it's later. I didn't actually look. That was my bad. I forgot to look this morning. But here we go, Labu. So all of these ARCGs, ARCKs, biotech IBs, IBBs, XBIs, whatever you want to call it, they all have very similar things. Hitting a 20 moving average, rejecting, resistance coming up, and if they breach, very big runways. I mean, just to hear, this is obviously a 3x leverage fund. You've got to be very careful. But just to hear, you're looking at a 53% increase. And where people get excited, And this is where it could be a banger trade if it goes through. Remember, weekly is reject, reject, reject. If you get this right on a multi-year seasonality, which most likely is coming up here for biotech pretty soon, 420. Okay, so in 4 minutes, we're going to have this one. 4 minutes. Edwin says, Nvidia will 100% beat. Well, it has a strong history of beatdowns, as in it beats. How the market reacts, we'll find out. 90% beats, 100% beat rate since 18. My goodness. So you can see why people are excited, because obviously the returns here are pretty big. You know, you're talking about 7Xs and stuff. So some pretty significant things. Obviously, you can tell the volume has become incredible in recent times in comparison to where it was even in previous crashes. So this is the most interest and the most transactions we've seen. And this goes across pretty much any of these biotech 50 industries or anything. Look at all the transactions going on. That's what makes me excited. It's not just the decline transactions. They're staying super high throughout this rallies and everything that's going on. Double J Studio Canadian $2. Tom, how would you trade GDX 35 trend line for TP? Okay, so this is the gold index we mentioned on the channel the other day. So yeah, if you were first up, this is the first level. So you're looking at around that 34.50 for the trend line on the way down. But I think you've got to realize that if it hits this level and gold's breaking out at the same time, so let's say it hits this level and gold's, I don't know, 1880, 1890. What's your expectation on gold? 1910. So you might actually think GDX is going to break through, and then you could go horizontal. That's where you're going to get your 35 resistance. If it breaches this trend line, though, and especially if it breaches this previous resistance here at 35, so 35 would be that 34.50 to 35 is a very good zone to take profit, depending on where gold is at the time. That then opens you up for a serious trade if it gets through the trend line. And we're talking upwards of that $40, and obviously gold really having the ramp. So that's the answer there, Double J. Thank you very much for the donation. Seb Fox says, Nvidia will 90% beat. You got a big brain there, Seb. I see what you've done. Vivid Boost. Everyone is on the Nvidia, and I'm monitoring baby movements out of FSR, lol. Hoping for that bullish weekly close. Yeah. And Raymond says, Dash. Yep, we looked at that one before. We certainly did. All right, let's talk about crypto. Oh, no, we only got 1 minute. We can't talk about crypto yet. We'll do that after this Nvidia announcement. Let me grab that. Here we go. Oh my goodness. Nvidia earnings at 4:20 and earnings call at 5:30. Yeah, I won't be around for the earnings call. Be important though if you're a follower of Nvidia to follow this. Fastly tanking. Fastly has been tanking for a long time. This stock has been sick as a sick, so sick. All right, here we go. Hey. Hello. I'm scared, guys. Oh, I didn't really want to be correct. Damn it. The bullish retail strikes again, it looks like. Let's see though. 4% is not too bad. Yell at it, Tom. Yeah. Oh, imagine if it ends up anyway. It's going down about 4, but now it's 2. Now it's 1. What a weird thing. So it went down 5. Now it's 3 again. Well, that's a strange earnings. Now it's flat. So it's going to be end up being a non-event. These after hours moves are wild on these stocks. Sometimes it's ridiculous. Is this going to go positive? Now it's positive 1.6. Okay. Strange. Is there something in the report that's different? Because that's got to be an algo-driven initial reaction there. Alexandre says, haha, this is manic. Yeah, that was bizarro. Now we're up 1%. So we did negative 5% and then positive 3 to 4%. It's a bad cat. I hate after hours. Imagine if you actually had stop losses on this and you weren't trading it with an option. God. And you're in the futures market. Oh, sick. All beats. But let's see how the market loves to interpret this. It seems to not want to get it past that resistance, does it? 1%. So it's going to wait for its little earnings call. Nvidia beats 1.32 versus 1.21 on the EPS. So now the question becomes whether they can continue to value it so highly. So that's a great beat. Did I talk US oil? Yeah, I hated on it before. About 10, 15 minutes ago. Andy Bacon says, I shorted. What the hell is happening? Well, technically, if you shorted at the close or after the close, you might be up 1% right now, Andy Bacon. It's down. It's over here. It's down 0.5%. Guidance is key. It's going to be key. Yes. So that's very interesting. So earnings is a beat, but the market will now interpret based on guidance, most likely, whether they want to keep their incredibly expensive stock incredibly expensive or whether they want to make it cheap for everybody. And that's for a big stock, this is the problem with this earnings. And this is going to be the problem with the earnings of 2022. If we've really just seen the cliff, and I mean this, by the way, hello and welcome, thousands plus people that have come in. Here's some stuff coming in about the stock. Revenue 7.64 billion versus 7.43. So very nice. Expected EPS 132 versus 122 expected. So this isn't a question of the beat. I mean, Nvidia has lived up to its expectations of its 90% plus beat rate. The question now becomes guidance and whether they can keep the valuation so high. Because the valuation is still high by price, not by quality of the company. We all know Nvidia. Come on, all the millennials, we all grew up buying Nvidia, this and that. They've only stuffed up very few times throughout history. Anyone remember 5950 Ultra? That'll test someone's age. 5950 Ultra, for anyone that knows what an Nvidia is. Nvidia graphics cards are. Now, I bought, TI 4200, that was a good graphics card. But Nvidia 5950 Ultra and 5900 Ultra, whew, you wouldn't be buying Nvidia stock if they made the cards like that anymore. They were trash. Fastly down 25% after hours. Ouch. Yeah, this stock is sick dog. It's been pretty bad for a while, unfortunately. So Nvidia has gone up 3%, down 5%, up again, and now we're down 2.7% after hours. I guess this is pointing towards guidance. If guidance doesn't really play the game and they say shortage, we don't think we're going to make as much money for whatever reason, or maybe even, people start to think, maybe this crypto crash at the time is going to reduce demand partially, which you can tell in the secondhand market it has. There's a chance this resistance does end up holding. But at this stage, it's nothing to freak out about. It's still like a great company. I'm just hoping to get it cheaper. That's all. And yes, Raj, we do know Dash is up 21%. Yeah, we checked that out before. Let's see if anyone remembers 59.50. No one knows. There's not enough nerds out there. FX 5200. Oh, that's crap. Man, I forgot about those almost. Yeah, that was. Oh, they are crap. Bad luck, Zaid. If you bought that, that was bad. And you are correct. The 9800 was banging. Wow, no one knows what that graphics card is. Interesting. I must be the only true nerd here. Okay, let's have a look at the markets into the close. So Nvidia is going to float around. It's pretty much sitting around this percentage. Guidance is going to be key. That call is in approximately 1 hour from now. So if you go and listen to the call, it may be worth it. I'd almost stream it, Wouldn't mind listening to some calls on the stream, but we won't probably do it today. Let's go over to the crypto markets quickly here and take a look at what's going on. So the old Bitcoin came up here to the previous resistance around 44.5. It's closed around that level. It's sold off and it's rallied again today. So really, as we know with crypto, it's just all about the Bitcoin, the Ethereum, and then everything else floats with it. This is the importance. 20 weekly moving average has rejected once before. That's sitting at $46,000. 46K is everything to this. If it gets past 46K, the FUD can get stuffed and we're going to go long and we're going to go get our 52K. But yeah, this level, we all know, everyone knows 46K, resistance 46K, 20 moving average 46K. First stage of recovery is tick. The fact that it hasn't gone underneath this low is cool. That's good. If it does, that is very bad. And we need it to break through here. And that will bring up all coins. You can kind of tell it. If you look at all these coins like Matic, DOT, Link, ADA, doesn't really matter which one. They've all had incredibly weak recoveries. They're waiting for Bitcoin's lead to create the FOMO throughout all the coins. Because look at this. It's hideous. Like, just absolutely terrible. I mean, you can clearly tell how important this and significant this breakout would be if it happened. I mean, Polkadot would be a very good trade here. Support, resistance, breach. Fantastic. But that's across all the coins. Let's have a look at Ethereum. So Ethereum, again, another one that's coming with the crowd. Here's our big downtrend. First stage of recovery complete. Second stage just needs to breach through that. And in some ways, it'd be at that point an inverse head and shoulder, left head, right shoulder. I really firmly believe that's where the FUD gets stuffed and we get out of it. But if the Super Bowl ads can't get us through, what's going to? GT says, if you bought Nvidia calls or Nvidia puts, you lost. IV will drop after earnings. Technically true, but that's also the price you pay sometimes for security of your position. And sometimes you've got to bring that into it. Thing is, if you don't do it on potentially big announcements, sometimes you'll lose 20% out backwards. And if you only had a 4% stop loss and it goes, what Fastly is doing right now, which is 26% backwards, who's really sad? This can ruin your account. And that's the problem with earnings. It's why also you would know, GT. Well, I know why I do some other things around this point. RM in $4.99. Thank you, Tom. Learned a lot from your videos. That's awesome, man. Thank you very much for everything. By the way, bought some puts on Nvidia. Hope it works out. Oh, man. I hope you guys are buying puts with like some kind of like spread or something. So you're not paying for the full downside here. You are going to be paying a fair bit of IV. You've got to consider thank you very much for the $5. When you put in options, a lot of people don't understand. Firstly, do not buy the option at the strike, guys. Okay? This is what noobs do. Are you a noob? Are you a noob? I hope not. Do not buy at the strike. That's where the noobs are. You use your technical analysis to figure out where you think the most logical conclusions are for your expiry. E.g., you might think down here is a big key support or something, and you've got to ratio it up. Sometimes you might have the right idea, and the IV in the market will be prohibitive, and you just can't get into it. So, look, I do wish you the best, RMN. Basically, you need for the call to be constrained Effectively, you need them to say, oh, we don't have any chips and we've got problems and we don't know what's going on. And if it does, then very good. John says, I had a Voodoo with the Win95 with the Sega Saturn controllers. Very nice. But 3DFX was a cool graphics card back then. I understand 3DFX. I'm talking 5900 Ultra. Oh, but the FX 5200 was was absolute crap card. That was when Nvidia went into some kind of like the worst thing ever. So the announcements come out. It's a beat, which is in line with their 90% plus beat rate. That continues the run since 2018. They have never actually missed an earnings call. The question becomes the valuation. And you can see here the market is recovering back to being flat ahead of the guidance. So basically, it's really looking at that guidance. You'll see that in an hour, and we'll find out what ends up happening. The Bitcoin, we've done the crypto, we've done the commodities. Go back through the video today, and we've got all of those coming. We obviously do have our normal daily show that I'll be putting out in a few hours' time, so make sure you check that out. And for anyone in the private community, we will have a special live stream discussing a few things here a little bit later. So I'm probably going to make that around, I think, well, I even start it now. Yeah, I might just do a half an hour live stream now. So that will start right now. If you've got the link in the private community, we'll do it right now. So thanks so much, guys. We'll see you soon. And obviously, if you haven't, subscribe, smash that like button, and we'll get you in soon. PS3 Pawn says Nvidia's new PE ratio is 59. Let's have a look at that on the chart here. 59, 59. Okay, so 50 was previous kind of redonkulous highs. That's not too bad. Yeah, that's about in line with where you want it on the top peaks. Cool. So much better. If they had missed, this is too high because we're not in 2020 or 2021 anymore where you're allowed to just go and have ridiculous PE ratios. Remember, fundamentals didn't matter. But now what happens? Fundamentals kind of matter again. So now that we're in fundamentals do matter, we need to get back down in the averages. And when we get in the averages, we can tick by it and hold our high quality companies. Fantastic. Catch everyone. Bye for now.